None of us really have any idea what's going on. For the most part, we're all just a bunch of dirt clods full of water and minerals, and we're just wandering around trying to make sense of all this stuff. And that's it. We're all just kind of guessing. So, you know, you need to come up with your own guess, or just find somebody else's guess and go along with their guess, and we all just guess because we're all just guessing. Some guesses are better than other guesses. So as long as your guess isn't hurting anybody else's guess and you're just having a good time, that's about as good a guess as you can get and stuff. Okay, that was super freaking awesome guess. Okay, bye.
Didn't expect this rootin' tootin' feller, did you?
Yeah, that just threw me off.
Yeah, that's right. That's why I didn't want to tell you. Hey, trust me, I'm smiling underneath. It is the morning show, Mornings with the Dreads. I'm Otis B. Dreads, allegedly. And we have Kelly with us, known over there at the Trill Crime. Kelly 2 Trill. She doesn't have the 2 Trill in there.
Yeah,
maybe
I messed
she's
up this
feeling
morning.
a
I'm
little
sorry.
less Trill than normal, but that's okay. That's all right. Let me get this thing off because I'll sweat my ass off with that. All right. There we go. Yeah, I thought I'd surprise you a little bit. Get the
You
old
really look like Otis with the hat and everything.
get the old cowboy hat going today. Yeah, we don't have anything planned. I mean, I got one thing planned. One thing I wanted to mention, of course, it's been all the rave, man. This whole damn, I forgot her damn name. Odd Natalia. Season 2 came out. Actually watched probably the majority of that. Mrs. Dred started watching it yesterday morning before I went to work, and put it on last night. Interesting. That'll have you, because I know you wanted to hear my thoughts on it, because you had watched it, and we had just talked about this on True Crime, and I hadn't had a chance to take and really dive into it. And I'm going to tell you what, oh my goodness, I didn't know who to believe.
Yep, that's how I still feel. I still feel that way.
Really, I mean, you walk away with only really one common thought, and that's Christine is a horrible person.
Absolutely.
I think that is the one thing you can for certain walk away with.
Yep.
Michael, the guy's hard for me to watch.
Yes.
He's hard for me to watch. He looks like he's trying to win a Grammy. There are so many red flags just in his actions. Very rarely makes
changes so many times too, which drives me crazy. If you're telling the truth, your story doesn't change.
It should not change.
Times,
no, it should not change the way it did. And I don't want to spoil it too much, but I haven't worn this thing in like forever.
I love it. You should wear it every time.
Every time. So yeah, his story changed. They showed they were asking about what particular incident was it that he said, the mace.
Oh yeah.
The mace in the face. He claims at the time of the second meeting, all right, the first one he stomped off like a little baby. The second meeting that you see in this part 2, season 2, is he's asked about this particular. Natalia tells her about, oh, I got sprayed in the face with mace. I tried to close my eyes. She said, keep your eyes open. He said at that time in the interview, I just found out about it like a year ago. That was my best impersonation because
no, that's pretty good.
Huh,
That was pretty good. Yep.
You know, I mean, it's very over the top, to say the least.
Yep.
And then they flash back to 2022, and where he says he knew at the time it happened, and so he's being caught in so many lies. It's an interesting story. It is not like, you know, it doesn't involve a murder, thankfully, yet, I guess, because as the hat's all crooked, it's wigging me out.
I think that's the only thing that separates it pretty much from the Orphan movie is the fact that nobody's actually been killed. You know, as terrible as that sounds, it's so much like that movie. It's crazy.
It really is. It's almost like they just took the script and just like changed some people in some places and things like that. Yep. It's crazy. If you guys haven't seen it, you need something to watch. Yeah, I mean, it's worth a watch. It's worth the watch. But you know, it is what it is. I told Mrs. Dred's like Gypsy, I feel that both parties are guilty. Well, why do you think little Natalia is guilty? Well, you know, for one, she's lied too. You know, she was real quick to deny the whole allegation of being in the bedroom with a knife. Said she couldn't grip it, yet if you watch closely, you can see her gripping things just fine. Okay, either with 2 fingers, 3 fingers, or however many, you know, fingers she has use of.
And honestly, I wouldn't blame her if she go murdering somebody, but at the same time, especially at the age that she was, you're not processing properly at that age.
Yes.
Your brain isn't fully developed. So I could see her being like, I need to get out of this situation somehow. I hate Christine. She abuses me. Maybe that's what happened. Yeah, she probably couldn't act on it because she's not going to be able to do a whole lot being as little as she is. But at the same time, maybe that did happen. But could you blame her? Christine is really a
I mean, she
shitbag.
was, yeah, Christina was a nut job. Maybe it was a
Yeah.
self-defense. Maybe she was trying to protect herself because there's that reattachment disorder that is very common with kids in you know, orphanages and foster kids being moving around, shipped around like, you know, just a piece of meat, which is sad in and of itself.
Yep.
Okay, I am empathetic. I can, you know, I get it. I'm not, you know, that's hard to go through, and you have a disability. Okay, a very severe physical disability. So yeah, it's a strange story. So
I think the person I feel bad for the most, honestly, is the son. Like, he seems like he genuinely is a nice person, and he's
the one
heartbroken
with
all the
autism.
Yeah, he seems like he's heartbroken over everything, and he's been so manipulated on every angle, every side, that he is just completely distraught, and now he's living in a basement when he's insanely intelligent and could be doing so much more with his life. So, I think I feel the worst for him, honestly.
I'd have to agree. Ruby, welcome. We were just chatting. We really have no topic. We're going all over the place as per usual on the Mornings with the Dred show. But right now we're speaking about the documentary season 2 of the Natalia Grace story. We talked about that on the True Crime, the last True Crime. So, we had to voice our opinion on it too, and it is what it is. But yeah, we just wing it here. That's what we do. We wing it. You were actually just watching something on rewatching, I should say, some Dahmer videos, and you told me something interesting. Your dad lived like right between
Yeah, him and
two,
Gacy.
homosexual serial killers. Who the hell can say that?
At the time they were killing too. I used to joke with my dad a lot about it because he lived in Illinois for just a couple years span. He's from Maryland as well, and then moved back to Maryland at the beginning of high school. So he was only there for a short period of time. But he was right. I don't think he was terribly close to Chicago, but he was in between like that Chicago area and Wisconsin. He was like 10 minutes from Wisconsin. So he was literally right in between Gacy and Dahmer as they're killing innocent victims, like homosexual serial killers. And I used to joke with him because I'm like, how did you get away? Like, you're like the perfect Gacy victim, skinny blondes, like you look just
I mean,
like
that could
them.
be taken either way. How did your dad take that? What are you trying to say? I'm gay? I mean, what are you trying to say? That, I'm eye candy?
I used to tell my dad, he used to make jokes. He's like, if I ever come up missing, look at my daughter. She probably like made me into dog food or something. He was joking about it. But because I was so obsessed with learning about serial killers and stuff, he used to make that joke a lot, especially when I had all the reptiles. He's like, there's so many things she could feed me too. But we always had a good relationship. Let me just put that out there. No, we just had a very good joking relationship, and he had a good sense of humor, so he could go along with my dark humor, I guess.
Right. Yeah, I have had the privilege of meeting your dad and your mom and your brothers. I don't know who all I met that one time. I was out that way for a funeral, and we visited a little bit. But people kind of look at you weird when you say you're into serial killers. And you're into true crime. Well, maybe not so much true crime, because that, as we all know, is it's probably one of the number one or top five podcast genres.
I feel like it's growing too. I feel like growing up it was not nearly as popular, and I might be wrong, but I used to get a lot of weird looks being into that, and like, ooh, how can you listen to that stuff? Doesn't it creep you out? And I just always found it interesting because the psychological side of it. But I feel like it's growing. I meet a lot of like moms and stuff now that I would never expect to watch true crime, and I don't think they delve in too deep. I think they just like the general aspect where we kind of like all the gory details.
Right.
But yeah, no, it surprises me how many more people are into it.
Yeah, it really is. Ruby, this is interesting. In the early mid-'70s, I worked in the Peoria courthouse. Gacy came in. I tried to find his ticket. They
That's
say
crazy.
that, you will a traffic ticket. Wow.
That's awesome. I mean, not awesome, but awesome. Like,
well, I mean, it is kind of cool.
Yeah, I think it's
I mean, I guess as morbid as that is, I've always, as I've said before, I got into like, true crime, serial killers, things like that, because I wanted to know what made them go from, because we've seen pictures of Gacy as a small child.
Yeah.
Cute little kid with big old, chunky kid and all this. And, a lot of these kids were cute little kids. How'd they go from these cute little kids, right, to eating their neighbor 30 years later? And, I mean, how does that happen? What happens in that time? Not all serial killers come from a bad background. Ted Bundy is one of them. Not, but I think one thing that is common among them, and that's mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we can, that is a subject, as I've said, that I could talk about for hours on end. It's something very close to me, something I've dealt with throughout my life. I know it's, mental health and illness is something you have dealt with. A lot
Mhm.
of us are dealing with it, and some of us don't even know that, the reason you act the way you do is maybe there's something going on. Maybe it's PTSD. Maybe you just act that way. But mental
Mhm.
illness is something that's very close and dear to us, as true crime is. So, what better way? Good morning, Joni. What better way and what better, topic of conversation than to combine the two? And I found this little article here. Uh, Dangerous Minds, the mental illnesses of infamous criminals. And I was glancing through this. I was glad that, well, I got the help when I did because I've noticed I share some mental illnesses with some famous serial killers. So,
Mhm.
the mind is such a fragile yet intricate. I don't know. I mean, they say the mind's a terrible thing to waste. The mind, your mind can just take you into other realms of mental health you didn't know really existed. It can be very dangerous. You are your own worst enemy a lot of times,
Yep.
and that, I think, is really the crux of why some people just don't tend to pull themselves out. So we're going to start with some serial killers that you probably already know. As you see here, David Berkowitz, Ed Gein, Richard Chase, David Gonzalez, Gerald Lee Loeffner. Of course, was Jared the movie theater? Was that him? Gerald Lee Loeffner.
That
What
one's like the
what
only
was the
one
one
I
that
don't remember.
the Joker, I think the movie theater, and James Egan Holmes. Oh no, that was the Batman murders. That was that one,
Okay.
James Holmes. Okay. Schizophrenia. As I mentioned, David Berkowitz, known as Son of Sam, killed 6 people in the 70s, claiming his neighbor's dog told him to do it. He was diagnosed as paranoid schizophrenia. Um, Inspirations for Ed Gein. I don't know who knows this. Norman Bates, Buffalo Bill,
Mhm.
Leatherface. All of those were kind of based off of the Ed Gein story. The Vampire of Sacramento being Richard Chase, killed
That
6
one makes
people.
total sense for having schizophrenia.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, and
Yeah.
I think a lot of, we probably think a lot of these, have schizophrenia. Of course, the Batman murders. Oh, that was Gabrielle Giffords in 2011. The Gerald Lee Loeffner, U.S. representative, shot a bunch of people up in 2011. He was paranoid schizophrenic. Here's one that touches me personally: borderline personality disorder. Impulsive behaviors, intense mood swings, feeling of low self-worth, and problems in interpersonal relationships. Those who don't understand what borderline is, um, I was thinking, what's this? I guess I gotta stay on these. I was thinking Jared
Oh
was
my
the
god.
sub pedophile.
The subway guy.
This subway guy. Um, yes, Ruby, as I was talking about the mind, it is fragile yet durable, and you can heal. You can heal it. Personality, borderline personality disorder. It's not being able, basically, in a nutshell, not being able to regulate emotions and things like that. When I get down, I get down. When I get up, I get up. If I get angry about something, it takes forever for me to get back to a peaceful place. I'm better now, but I didn't realize that I shared the same thing with Eileen Warnos, Jeffrey Dahmer, Kristen Gilbert. I'm not really familiar with that one. Killed 4 patients at a Northampton, Virginia hospital where she worked as a nurse by administering fatal doses of epinephrine to induce cardiac arrest. I didn't know that Dahmer and Dahmer, like myself, at one point helped tried to help his condition. Probably didn't even know back then. They didn't even know what borderline personality was. It has had such a stigma on it. But he drank a lot. He tried to cope with drinking, and that's what I did. Boy, let me tell you, it doesn't work. It does not work, especially with borderline. Ruby says, my daughter got a master's in psychology. She diagnosed me with all these disorders. Holy crap. Well, you're in
That's
the
an
right
awesome
place,
accomplishment,
Ruby.
though.
No, that is. Congrats to her. That's gotta be tough. Any social personality disorder? Ted Bundy, John Wayne Gacy, Manson, Charles Manson. He comes up all the time.
And it's
Yeah.
funny that Gacy was diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder, and he likes to argue that fact because and same with Ted Bundy, they were such big parts of the community. So they were in social gatherings quite often, unlike Jeffrey Dahmer, who kind of was secluded, or Ed Gein, that was kind of secluded. But antisocial personality disorder doesn't mean that you don't socialize with people. It means that you don't relate to them in a normal fashion with socialization. So like your socialization is not the same as a typical person. So you're not understanding and interacting in a way a normal, or not normal, sorry, typical person would interact. So Gacy liked in the past to argue that there's no way he could have been antisocial because he was so social. But you just don't react on the same level as a typical person, and you don't have the same emotions as a typical person, and that was very evident with Ted Bundy as well. Someone who worked on a suicide hotline and then murdered people. Like, hey, don't kill yourself, I'll do it for you.
I'll do it for you. I'll save you the
Yeah.
trouble. I'll make sure there's no attempts and you don't have to live with all of that for not, going through with it. Joni says she's a firm believer that gardening can help. And it really does. Yes, that's a big one for you, Kelly. You live out on a farm, dude. I mean, are those some of the things? What are some of the activities? And it's great that you brought that up, Joni. What are some activities that you in the chat, and more, directly you, Kelly, do when you feel these things creeping up? And you start getting anxious, outside of, medications. I take 10 milligrams of Lexapro a day for my, the major depressive disorder and borderline. What are, outside of medications, what are some things that you can do or anybody else could do without medication? Gardening was one. Do you do a lot of that?
So I used to run a lot. That was one of my big things. When I would be stressed out, I'd go run. I used to run like 9 to 13 miles a day. I was
Good
trying to
night.
train. Yeah, I wanted to
I
train
need
for
a
a
nap just
marathon.
hearing that.
I don't have the time to do that like I used to. So I unfortunately don't do that the way I used to with having 4 kids. It's really difficult to try to run like that. So what I got into, which is funny, she mentioned the gardening, which we do have a garden here on the farm, but I love indoor plants. I have OCD, so I get obsessive when I get into something, and I'm very compulsive. So I got to the point where I was so obsessed, and every time I went to a store, I had to buy a plant. So one, that would kind of bring me back up. But then when I would get stressed out at home, I would go around and water each of the plants to take that time for myself, and then trim the dead leaves, or just little things like that. Like caring for the plants didn't require the same amount of attention that my children did. And it
Right.
was like, I love my children to death, but they're loud, and sometimes you need that mental break, and the plants don't talk back. So, like, I would just clip my
True
plants and
story.
I would do clippings and replant other plants, and then I'd give them as gifts, which is something that's also, like, a high for me is giving gifts. I love doing that kinda stuff, so then it was like a free gift to give to someone else to have that same help with anxiety. So I love like indoor plants. That's something that I really, at one point, my kids yelled at me for the bathroom. They were like, Mommy, the bathroom's so full right now. Like, we need to get rid of some plants. Like, it's getting to be too much.
That's
So,
great.
but that was something that helped me a lot.
Yeah, Joni says if I don't get my daily allotment of outside time, then it's rough at my house. And see,
Yeah.
I'm kind of the I can be perfectly content sitting in the house, not going anywhere, just being by myself in my own thoughts. That used to be a dangerous place for me. I've gotten a handle on that of late, so I don't mind sitting
I
at
think you
home.
and I can both relate to like music too. Music is
Yes,
something that will help me drown out the sounds in my head because I know we both have PTSD. So
hmm
that's something that is really difficult to escape. And sometimes just because I know when you get frustrated, you'll send songs you're listening to too. And that's something that's always like drastically helped me was listening to music and being able to relate to some of those the lyrics and just having it drowned out the sound on your head for a little bit, you know.
right.
So,
Yeah, Ruby says going back to Gacy. Gacy seemed
oh
narcissistic to
yeah.
me. Yes, Joni is in agreement with that. Yes, walking or just sitting outside,
Mhm.
listening, mindfulness can bring you back down. Just if the birds are chirping, or you don't want to sit outside here right now. It's kind of chilly. You, But, yes, just absorbing all of the little sounds, as simplistic as it is, those little things, can be, very, um, very beneficial. I also raise animals for manure and food. See, these
That's cool.
little things, are things that you can do outside of eating pills. I was so against, um, taking medication. I
Mhm.
had I had a lot of I was misdiagnosed, as we see a lot, especially with borderline. It's misdiagnosed as bipolar, and there's two different treatments for bipolar and borderline, and a lot of the treatments for borderline has to do a lot with some old philosophies, as me and Lozilla have talked before. Your better half, the Stoicism, they CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy. These are all proven therapies that have had a lot of success
Mhm.
in helping people change the way they think and be able to catch these feelings in time and not have them be uh, so overbearing in
Mhm.
their day to day lives. And I have no idea where I was going with that.
Well, something else we talked about before too is grounding. So just going out with your shoes off, and touching the ground or sitting on the ground, feeling the ground.
Yes,
For whatever reason, there's scientific evidence showing that that actually kind of brings you back to your even state. And that's something that's really good for you too. Just being well, it goes along with being out in nature, but actually having your feet touch the ground, there's some kind of
I've
benefit
heard
behind
that.
that.
Yeah,
So yeah,
the
my kids
the
run around barefoot all the time.
yeah, Native Americans, they knew that. That was a big thing with them. Being in touch with nature, and yeah, it happens. The only thing I take, Joni says, is coffee, cigarettes, and Suboxone for my addict past. And thankfully, it is your past. This
Yeah,
coming May will be a year, no alcohol for me, which was quite a feat.
awesome.
Haven't had any, withdrawals. I got lucky with that. I think I just, the Lexapro. I always want to say Leprexa. I don't know why. Lexapro has definitely helped with that, and the fact that I was, I was at rock bottom with my mental health, and of course that wasn't helping. I love grounding, but I keep my muck boots on because of all these fire ants. Ugh, ouch.
Joni, what area are you in? Are you down south?
It sounds like it with fire
Yeah.
ants. I don't
Yeah.
see fire ants around here in the Midwest.
When I lived in North Carolina, I saw them. That's why I was thinking
Mhm.
maybe down south. But yeah, I know I was really against medication for a while too, and I struggled with it drastically only because one, I don't like the chemical side of it. I also know a lot about the pharmaceutical industry and how much it's pushed for financial gain. So that is something that concerned me. But the other side of that is, like you and I know, because we're both on Lexapro, if you go a day or two without taking it, it can make you suicidal. Like it can really have the opposite effect. And going off of it cold turkey can be really damaging to you. Florida, okay.
Central Florida. Yeah, we
um,
figured it was kind of down south.
yeah.
That's where I hear a lot of fire ants are.
And that, and when you start the medication, I mean, it can take 2, 3 weeks to even start working again. So then if you miss those couple days, it can really throw you off. I went through it a couple weeks ago. Like I was telling you guys, I had some really low lows after missing my medication for 3 days. And then I had to go through the process again of getting it back in my system. And so that can be draining mentally and physically when you're on medication. But overall, I can say that I'm definitely a better person and I can control
Sure.
my thought process better when I'm on something like Lexapro. Because, like I said, I have PTSD, I have OCD, ADHD, which doesn't help, and then anxiety. I have pretty bad anxiety. So it kind of encompasses all of that, and I can focus better. So I don't feel so overwhelmed by all of the thoughts. So
Yeah, yeah. And they tried to. Ruby says I had an Indian doctor, psychiatrist. He taught me meditation. Helped a lot, but not always with PTSD. I always wanted to, try that. To get more into meditation. I just can't stop my fucking head
that's
from
my
from
problem.
from all the noise in it. I can't.
Carlos
I
is
feel like I
so
have to
good at it.
address the noise more directly than just,
Yep.
I can't. It is so hard for me to take and do. Joe said I used to drink a 30 pack a day and traded
Wow.
that for pills. Ugh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it's
hard.
PTSD is a biggie. Yes, it is.
And that's
It's
one thing I'll say about meditation is Carlos is amazing at meditation. Like he loves it after practicing like stoicism, and he's like just sit and listen to a guided meditation. And because I guess of my anxiety and my PTSD, I can't turn my brain off either. It's so hard to get to the point that I can relax because without background noise, it's just my head. I have a difficult time with that too.
Yes. Yes. Mediation. Oh, I think she meant
Oh,
meditation
me. Okay.
because she said meditation up here.
Okay.
Maybe she just missed the letter. Yes. Meditation is I think like an art form of grounding yourself,
Hmm.
and one thing that has helped me again is and just here recently is um the Stoicism principles. It's old philosophy. Hey, you can only change certain things. You're only in control of two things, pretty much, in your life, in this existence. Two things. What you think, how you deal with situations, and how you react to them, and the things that you say. These are all you can't control. People get so caught up on well, this person said that. Well, sorry, you can't
Yeah.
you can't stop a person from saying bad things, hurtful things. What you can do is change how you react to them and not be so reactionary, which with borderline is tough.
Yeah.
Borderline, again, I could talk about borderline personality forever. I've done tons of research on that because I'm the type of person, if you say I'm a certain way, I'm looking it up. I want to
Yeah.
know everything about it. And I was misdiagnosed so long before the borderline came into the picture that I had no idea what was wrong with me. And then once I looked into the borderline, I was like, oh yeah, this they have like a 9-point criteria for if you have borderline. I think I have 8 of them.
Oh wow.
And yeah, I mean, I pretty much have the whole, the whole thing. And that was hard. And I look back at, how I reacted, and, with borderline, it's as simple as, it's like an empath, but like an overdrive, I guess, of because if someone says something to me, I look at body language, I look at facial expressions and tone of voice. That is super big with borderline personality disorder. So if you say something and you have that resting bitch face, is my worst enemy, because I think people are saying something, but the look on their face, their body language in my head just doesn't match what they're saying.
Mhm.
So then it takes and causes all kind of problems. I think this person hates me. This person doesn't like. I'm I'm not worthy of this or that. And it's a hard. It's really hard to take and live with, but it is, and a lot of these things are manageable. I mean, with what you deal with, Kelly, I mean, you're able to keep your home together. You haven't killed Carlos yet.
Nope,
Um,
not yet.
not yet, not yet. So, what was it you were going to get? We talked about it on a morning show. What was it? The food. Oh man, the
The chicken.
cookies,
It was chicken. We had Oreo cookies and
Oreo
Christmas
cookies.
trees
Yeah.
that I can beat his ass with. So I got all kinds of options now.
All you gotta do is open the refrigerator
Right.
and just find something to swing at him. A celery stick, it doesn't matter. Um, so yeah, it's
Doesn't call the cops. I guess we'll be good to go because he's not one to call the cops.
yeah, Ruby's. I just realized, hey, we're all kind of a little effed up. All of
Yeah.
us are. Nobody is ever in it alone. I know, the holidays are behind us, and that's always a tough time. Missing loved ones, trying to be there, for, your family, and dealing with these things, is tough. I used to, try not to think about it, but it never worked, by drinking over the holidays. And that would always, because that was kind of how my mom did things. She had a party, having some drinks, some people over, and that was just, that was how I dealt with the holidays. But then that would bring about these sad feelings. I couldn't be happy about my memories.
Mhm.
They would always make me sad. You make a lot of posts, on Facebook regarding your dad, and they're always happy memories. Sure, you miss them, but I think that, if we focus in more on the good times, we lose sight of that. Not memories, yes, can make you feel numerous ways.
Mhm.
Some days a memory will have you just, the waterworks start flowing. Other days, it brings a smile to your face, and you're like, man, I'm so glad I had that time,
Yep.
and I'm so glad we shared these moments. Other times, not so much. Is that something you deal with that?
Oh yeah.
A lot, I'm sure. Especially around birthdays. My
And
mom's.
speaking of, oh, sorry.
No, you get my mom's birthday coming up, the February 9th.
Yeah.
And then my grandmother, her mother, the end of February. She's actually a leap year baby. So she'd either celebrate it on the 29th or the 1st of March. And then my dad's the 1st of March. So I have a lot
Yeah.
of people that have since, passed that meant a lot to me. With birthdays coming up. That's the hard one.
Yeah. And we're kind of the same way. And just to go back to like the positive mental attitude, what helps to keep me going, because today is actually the anniversary of my dad going into ICU. So
Oh,
the 20th is the anniversary of his passing. So we're coming up on 2 years, which is still, it feels very raw. It
that's
feels very
crazy.
real. And my kids were talking about it in the car the other day, which kind of broke my heart. And they said, because it was my mom's birthday the other day, and they said, well, how old would Papa be today? And how old was he when he passed? And when I went over it with them, they said, it's been 2 years. And that kind of like hit them, that they, did the math, and they were like, it doesn't feel like it's been 2 years. And that's how we're all kind of dealing with it. This month is a really tough month. We get a lot of birthdays. We have my parents' anniversary, and then, my dad passing. And so it is a lot. But one of the big things my dad used to say, and that helps me get through, he was very big on, you're the only person that can change your emotions or affect your attitude. No one else can. And I used to get mad at him. I'm like, that's not true, but it's so true. Like, it
No, it
doesn't
is.
matter what anyone says to you, what anyone does to you, unless they're physically harming you, that should not change your mood. And what makes you weak is if you allow it to. Like, he was very big on that. If you're strong through it, then they should not be able to change the rest of your day because of something they said or did. He was very, very
Absolutely.
big on that, and that rings out in my head constantly with him. It's like he's always there reminding me of those things. That and work smarter, not harder. That was one of his big things. So when I can't figure something out and I get frustrated, I hear him in the background going, "Work smarter, not harder. Come on, kid."
Yeah.
So that's honestly what gets me through these times. And just reminding my kids constantly of all the memories we have. Like I told you and Bobby before, I'm the picture taker of the family. Not that I want to be in the pictures, but I'm the one taking the pictures. And that has kept us going tremendously, having all the videos and pictures of my dad. And so we reflect on all that and remind the kids of it and show them constantly to keep his memory alive.
Yeah. Joni says, see, that's my problem. I don't miss people.
Hmm.
Oh, hey, man, to each his own, man.
Yeah.
Um,
Everybody's different,
there's certain people that, that have maybe not passed on, but, there are people that at one point meant a lot to me that, have, not really, lived up to that. And you find yourself giving and giving to people and you don't get that in return. And you can't expect them to do and act just like you,
Yep.
which is hard for me. It's like, man, I'm such a giving person, man. I try to help
Yeah.
these people out, and this is how you treat me. And it turns me cynical. I'm like, man, these
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
Um, Joni says, I had a hard childhood. Instead of being angry, I sit and smile. No drama, quiet, and I can wear anything or nothing at all. No judgment, no guilt, and I smile. It works for me. Hey, and you know what? That's what it's all about. It doesn't have to be, this by the book type way of dealing with things. You deal with it how you can. That is what I always say. I'm not a religious person. That's just me. I don't care. I don't, shit on people who are religious. Bobby is a Christian. You have mentioned, it was forced on me as a small child. So it was something that at a very young age, I was like, no, man, at 10 years old on a Sunday, I want to go play. I don't want to go sit in church for 2 hours. But it's whatever, it reminds me of the song, whatever gets you through the night, it's all right. It's all right. And that's kind of my whatever get you
Mhm.
through whatever pain or trauma that you're going through. That's the main thing. With religion, hey, if you want to worship a rock and that rock brings you peace and what, then fine, worship the rock. I don't care. It
And
doesn't
going
matter
back
to me.
to what Joni said, I think sometimes too, like some people might have taken that even the wrong way. I think I understand to a certain extent, and correct me if I'm wrong, Janie, but I know sometimes too having those beliefs of the afterlife, whatever your belief pattern might be, because I'm not like strictly what the Bible says. I consider myself a Christian, but I have my own beliefs, and my dad and I talked a lot about the afterlife. So it's kind of crazy because now he's passed on, and I think about some of those things, and I've struggled with my faith the most since losing my dad. But there are things that like even I'm not Mexican, but we have an ofrenda for our family members, and we like to celebrate their life versus mourning it. And I think depending on what your beliefs are of what happens in that next life, whether it's a Christian belief or a Muslim belief, whatever your belief is, whether you're atheist, I'm sure you still have thoughts of what happens to you after you're gone. And so, in my opinion, there is a soul in there, and there's a next level, whether it's another realm or whatever it might be. And so I think sometimes that helps me cope with it a little bit more. And maybe Jody, you might be the same way. It's just if you have an idea of where that person might be and you feel like they're safe or happy or healthy, that kind of makes it easier to not have that missing feeling or that hurt.
Yeah.
I guess if that makes sense. So I
No,
I do struggle
completely.
with that, but there are times where I'm like, so I didn't believe in psychics or like mediums and stuff before, and we've had a couple readings that were just so dead on that I'm like, I don't understand how they would know this. Like we had friends go to mediums trying to reach out to their family members, and my dad came through and they called and they were like, how the hell, like this medium couldn't have faked this because it was for me. They don't even know who you are. And the
Hmm.
details they were giving was just like so dead on for my dad. And that for me, it makes me question some things, and it makes me wonder like, okay, so he is wherever this next life is or whatever this next stage is, he's happy and he's healthy, and he sends signs that I just have I have no way of denying that they're him. So that gives me peace, I guess, if that makes sense. And like that same theme of Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead, like we celebrate that every year, even though we're not Mexican. It's the idea of celebrating their life and the next level, whatever that may be, and them being happy and still having that connection here with us in this lifetime that we're in. So that whatever that soul connection is, I guess, if that makes sense.
No,
So
no,
yeah.
it absolutely does. Joni agrees with you on the mediums, and Ruby had mentioned her daughter celebrates the Day of the Dead.
Mhm.
I believe mediums have knowledge; it just comes from the wrong place. Yeah,
My
I
grandmom's like that. My grandmom doesn't so we have like conflicting views in our family too. She is not big on mediums, or she's very like old school Christian, and she she believes that there's like evil surrounding that, so she won't participate in things like that too. So I do have family members that are like hardcore certain way of Christian, and they're like, you can't do that. But I try to say, and I respect that. I don't have an issue, like you said, like everybody's got different thoughts on what the afterlife
sure,
is, and I
yeah.
just stay open minded to it. If there's messages coming through, I'm gonna listen to them because that's my way of getting whatever my dad is saying through from the other side, wherever that other side is. So
Yeah, it's the one thing the one thing that I've been struggling with, I think here of late on speaking, staying somewhat, on topic as far as people passing away is my own passing. Now I'm a
mm,
part of the old generation, that being Gen X. We're the next ones to start dropping off, and you really don't when I think when that really hits home, like, oh God, I'm the next generation to kick the bucket, you know. Because you grow up, and you lose family or friends, throughout, and it's like, okay, well, my mom, papa was old, okay, mom
mm,
was, and you just don't see yourself as that old generation that
yeah,
is, I struggle a lot with my own mortality.
yep,
That is something that, I have so many, feelings that come about when I think about it, and I get angry at myself. Why did I waste so much fucking time? Why didn't I grab the bull by the horns? when I had the opportunity, why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that? And I have to
Man,
bring
you and
myself.
Carlos are like the same person with that.
Yeah, and I have to bring myself, back to earth and be like, you ain't dead yet, you big dummy. You can
Yeah.
still do these things. It's just an older version of you doing these things. And but it's like I think, God, man, one day, man, just my eyes are not gonna open. I'm not gonna, be around. I'm not gonna be with my grandson, and
Yep.
he's going to go through some of the things that your kids are going through, missing their pop-up, and
Yep.
that bothers the hell out of me. I mean, I really
Mhm.
I've been kind of a skeptic when it comes to like ghost and paranormal things. I
Yeah.
just need to see it with my own eyes kind of guy.
Yep.
um but I really hope there's some validity to that, because I want to come back.
Yeah.
I don't want to live forever. The other side is more real than this place. I certainly hope so. But I
Mhm.
hope there's I've seen the meme. I hope there's no ghost jobs. Can you imagine that? You work all your life and you end up working at a ghost post office or something.
If you want to watch a cool documentary that kind of gives you some insight to some otherworldly stuff, there's something called Surviving Death that's really interesting. There are parts of that there I sit there and I'm like, this is such bullshit, but then there's other parts of it where it's like, holy hell, how would they know that? Like, that's so wild to me. I think it's on Netflix. It's either Netflix or Hulu, but that's a good one to check out if you're kind of interested in what that next life is like, or the
Mhm.
experiences people have had when they've like medically been dead and then somehow come back. And sorry, I don't want to keep you from saying Ruby's comment if you want to. Okay.
No, you're
Okay.
good. No.
Um,
I
but
will bring it up when you're done. You're fine.
but one of the big things that you just touched on that I can relate to so much is like my grandma passed of cancer like a year and a half before my dad passed. And that was difficult seeing her go downhill. And it was hard to accept a little bit, but we knew it was coming. And like we've had some friends overdose and my cousin overdosed, and it was like surreal, but it was like, okay, they did this to make this happen. And so it's like it's sad, or like they had an illness and that's why this happened. My uncle passed of cancer. I understand why that happened. When we lost my dad and it was malpractice, I think that's where it just really like was a gut punch. And it was like, wow, he was so healthy a couple weeks prior to that. I have pictures of him dancing and videos dancing with my kids at Christmas, and everything was normal. Like there were no signs, like, prior to him getting hospitalized. And so it was just like so quick. And that was one of those things where I'm like, my dad was 52. Like he was young as hell. Like he was here one day and gone the next. And that was that one thing where it just really made me question the next life. That's where I sat there and I was like, oh my gosh, like, am I believing in the right thing? Am I, where is he? What is he feeling like? Is he still around? I hope there's a part of him that is still somewhere that I will see him again. And that's what really made me cling and start diving into like theories of other people, like or psychic mediums, or just listening to it. Not saying that I full on believe all this stuff. It's just
Mhm.
it really keeps me open minded because I'm clinging to the fact that I will see him in some form again, or I'll have interaction with him in some form again, because I don't know that I could deal with the alternative. I couldn't deal with, okay, it's just a body and he's gone. I that is really difficult. Like you were saying, it's just kind of
Yeah.
when you have people that are older, like I've had grandparents pass and say, oh, they're old. But like when it's someone that's so healthy one minute that is such a large part of your life, and then the next minute you get that phone call, you didn't even get to see him when he passed, you didn't get to see him. We literally spoke to him on the phone through FaceTime the day before, and the doctors were telling us he was coming home. So less than 24 hours later, we got the phone call. My mom said, I'm rushing to the hospital. They said he's dying. She got there and he was gone. So it was like
Wow.
just such a quick, like, wow, and then you're sitting there like, we can fix this. And then it's the reality of, no, we can't. Like, this is it. There is, a definitive life here. And that is difficult. And so I cling to that. There has to be something else. I have to be able to communicate with him. I have to be able to see him again in some form. You know what I mean? Like that was a gut punch for me. That was definitely one of those things that made me question my own mortality. Like, what if tomorrow I get into a car accident and my kids are already dealing with the death of my dad? Or like when I was feeling suicidal, that's what kept me here. Honestly, it was my kids couldn't handle going through that again. And it's
Yeah.
like, what does happen in the next life? Would I see my dad if I did that? Or am I just taking myself away from my kids for no reason? Like things like that, like really hit
Mm.
home when you go through such a significant death like that. So
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
yeah,
Yeah,
mortality
Ruby
is so
says,
real then.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Says, I don't worry about dying. I worry about not making things better for my kids and her future. Absolutely. And
100%.
she says, I don't worry about lying either.
Yeah, no, I can
Joni
relate
says,
to
see,
that.
glorified monkeys don't have thoughts like that. We're more than animals. Yeah. Maybe not the nicest of animals, but well, we are. I mean, all of us here are cool, but
Yeah. Yeah, I had to cling to some thought, and like Ruby Slippers just said, being a mom, oh my, I can relate to that 1,000 times over. That's where 95% of my anxiety comes from is and having PTSD, because part of that was a result of being told certain things about me being a mom or a person, or my dad being disappointed in me. Some of those things were thoughts that replay in my head. So every day I go through that struggle of, oh my gosh, am I doing enough for my kids? Am I spending enough time with them? Do they have everything they need? That, or like, is this the world they're growing up in? Is there a way I can protect them from, because we're into true crime. You see all these
yeah.
sexual predators, and it's like, can I protect my kid from that happening? What if I let them leave the house and go to a party with a friend and something like that happens, like the Idaho Four, they go away to college and they don't come home. It's
Yeah.
like those thoughts constantly flood your brain, and that's something where that cognitive therapy comes in. Like, you have to retrain your brain and realize this is it. There's you can only do so much. You can control yourself. You can't control others, and even that is to a certain extent. So, Ruby, I can 1,000% relate to that, and that's why meditation's hard for me, because my brain just one thing to the next.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
My youngest daughter, early 20s, she took and decided to go out to Chicago by
Saying that. Oof.
herself. By her damn self. Welcome, Mr. Nanners. Yeah, go out to Chicago by herself. Um, Chicago being like the murder capital of the states. I mean, there's like a handful of murders every day. I mean, and I'm like, you better be calling home every
Yeah.
night. I watch way too much true crime to
Yep.
know that a young, pretty girl in a place like Chicago is not. I mean, it's a little sketchy. You
Yep.
know, I feel a little bad.
Yeah,
Little
my mom says I torture myself with watching true crime, because then I think about all those things. But in
yeah.
my opinion, it's more, and I get what she's saying with that. But at the same time, I feel
You're
like it makes me more
educating yourself.
aware. Yeah, it makes me more
Yeah.
aware. There's some people that live with blinders on, thinking this can never happen to us until it happens. And then they're like, wow, like, why didn't I think that could happen? And so, yeah, we can't live terrified, but at the same time, we can also be aware, especially coming from a place like Baltimore. I was always looking around as I walked through a parking lot, making sure there wasn't someone following me, making sure there wasn't someone, like paying attention to my kids. There's a lot of sex trafficking in that area now, and a lot of reports of the Walmarts we went to, people snatching kids from their parents. So I was always aware, I always just kept myself on high alert. And that can be stressful, but at the same time, I also think it's like a survival instinct
Yeah,
almost.
it really is. I mean,
Yeah.
because the more prepared you are for really anything in your life. Mr. Nanners is here, otherwise known as Morgan
Hi.
Wellborn, the director of Helvira on the Run, a short, and the upcoming Helvira's Haunted Asylum of Horror. Preparation is everything. As a
Yep.
director, as with your work, with your family, in every aspect of your life, preparation is the key. And I think that yes, it can be torturous. You can torture yourself a little bit by looking into all of these, and it's it's nuts. It'll drive you batshit crazy. It
They do
really
say
will.
that anxiety is like considered more of a superpower versus an ailment because it does make you more self-aware and aware of those
Mhm.
around you because you're constantly playing out every scenario. It is torturous. I believe me, I live it every day.
It
But at the
really it
same time,
really is. But there
that
is that silver lining because you
yeah,
know everything around you. And I get on people, sometimes, especially even Mrs. Dreads. Me and my son, it aggravates the hell out of him too. That if we go to a store with Mrs. Dred, she acts like she is the only one in the store. She will push her cart down the middle of the aisle. She has no aisle etiquette at all. And then she'll just stop, and there's people behind. And I'm like, you know, move off to the side. People are trying to get by you because I'm looking at everything. I need to know
yep,
what my surroundings are. That's a great point. People need fear to survive,
yep,
and it is that's why you have that fight or flight. Fear is such an important part of our lives. It's not something we should run from. If you're not scared of anything, you're going to end up doing something really stupid.
yep.
In my opinion, if I mean, yes, people do things and face their fears, and that's fine. But
Mm.
you do need that. It is a
To an extent.
survival, yeah, you do need
Yeah,
it to a certain extent. So
yep,
that's a great point, Mr. Nanners. Absolutely. And too much of anything is bad. You
yep.
need it in moderation. Just like, if you drink, you need to, drink in moderation. If you do anything in moderation, eat. You can't overeat. That's unhealthy. Drink too
Mhm.
much, that's unhealthy. That's just bad all around. Anything, too much of anything is bad for you. Too much fear can cause you, I don't know, be a recluse. That can cause,
Mhm.
mental issues as well. Oh my
Too much
gosh, I would have
optimism can do
stalked
the
her.
same thing because then you're not aware of what's around you if you're too optimistic. I've lived life at certain points in my life where I was a little less aware because before I went through some of the things that I did, it was, oh, people can't be that bad. People can't be that bad until you
Sure.
experience it, and then you're like, holy fuck. So optimism can be the same way. Too much optimism can be a negative as well. Sorry, I
Yeah,
didn't mean to cut off
yeah, no,
cut
because
off
you turn
Jody's
around
comment.
because you turn into a people pleaser. I
Yeah.
want everything to be great, and not everything is great all the time, and you can't always be a people pleaser. Uh, Ruby said her daughter at 24 drove up from Arkansas to New York City.
Heart failure.
A heart failure. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. 22 years old. Joni replied, "Oh my gosh, I would have stalked her, following a few cars behind on the interstate. Put one of those
Yeah.
magnetic trackers under her car."
Yep.
Um, it is. I like you said, it's tough with kids because you don't want to be too overbearing. You don't want to wrap them in bubble wrap. And I know, a lot of, young parents, they want to wrap their kids in bubble wrap because this isn't a very nice world to be raising
No.
kids. And you feel like, the parental instinct is I want to wrap them in bubble wrap. I don't want anything bad to happen to them.
Yep.
But it's almost like you need some of those bad things to happen. You
Mhm.
can't raise a child, and this is just my opinion, as a parent, as a grandparent. I don't think you can raise a child um in the mindset of this is good, that is good, everything is good. That's why I don't like this participation trophy bullshit. Maybe that's the Gen X in me coming out. I think if you losing is as good as winning, because I think losing teaches you to be, I guess, a little humble.
Mhm.
It's like you're not going to win at everything. If you think you're going to win at
Motivation to do
everything, then
better.
It pushes you to do better. Okay, I didn't win this time. What can I do to improve to do better? And if you're given a participation trophy, it's like, oh, well, I did enough. I got a trophy. I don't need to work on that.
Yep.
That's why I haven't, an issue, with that. But again, where the hell was I going with this? Oh man. Well, yeah, we are at about the hour mark. I want to thank everybody for all your awesome comments, and we are all a little screwed in the head. But we can all have fun. Yep. We can all have a good time. We
normal people don't have a sense of humor. At least we have that.
Yeah, I mean, you got to carry a sense of humor through this life because, hey, none of us are getting out alive. We're all going to be where the people that we miss are at, wherever that is, whatever your belief is. We're all going to be there. Live in the moment. These are just things that I'm blurting out things that I say to myself. Live in the moment, mindfulness, things are shit everywhere. And actually I got that's why I play Rodney Norman in the beginning of these shows, in the beginning of the morning shows, because I think there's a lot of truth to what he says. He's a comedian, he's an actor, he's a philosopher. And I think a lot of the things that he says speaks volumes. And I think
I like him a lot.
we could take away from a lot that he says. So, but again, enjoy your day. We're not here very long. It's I can.
Oh my God!
Body rot.
Hey, Jack Nicholson said it. We're all on our way out. Act accordingly.
Yeah, at least you can't smell it. I mean, who knows? Yeah. We're not there in Texas with you, Mr. Nanners, so we don't know if it stinks over there. I tell you what, if I woke up and I wasn't in pain, I would think I was dead. That's how I know that I'm alive. I wake up, I'm like, oh my God, I can't move. Yes, I made it another night. But yes, we talked a little bit about everything and nothing all at once. This is like the podcast version of the Seinfeld show. It's a show about nothing. But I think it was a good conversation. And like I said, I love talking about mental health. I think more people than are suffering. That's why I love to, be kind to everyone. You don't know the battles that this person is fighting. You don't know how hard it is for this person to put a smile on their face. You don't know how hard it is for this person to take and not go in the work and shoot their work up or take themselves out. So just be kind to everybody. And I hope you guys have a great day. I do have another little clip to take us out of Rodney, and we'll see you guys next Monday. Trill Crime. If you guys are into indie horror, the Indie Horror Junkie podcast, which I host, that'll be tonight at 8 p.m. So if you ain't doing anything, that's Eastern, 8 p.m. Eastern. Join us. And hey, good learning about you all more. Yeah, well, it was it was a good talk. Take care. You guys have a great day. And here's some Rodney to take us out. Some words of wisdom. Enjoy your hump day.
Desire creates unhappiness, and unhappiness creates desire. Because when you're desiring stuff, you're wanting stuff you don't have, and not having that stuff makes you unhappy. And so you keep wanting to have that stuff, and as long as you don't have that stuff, well, then you're just unhappy. But if you stop desiring the stuff you don't have, and then just be happy with the stuff you got. Then you'll be a lot happier, and then you'll find you actually get more stuff because you appreciate having stuff, and then your mind connects with the universe, and the universe is like, hey, they like stuff. They like the stuff they got. We should give them more stuff, and then you get more stuff, and then you get stuff, and then you think this stuff isn't all that important because my happiness isn't wrapped around the stuff, and then you start giving your stuff away, and then you find out that you're more happy giving your stuff away than you were having your stuff. Okay, think about that for a while and stuff. Okay, bye.